In the Lord. Oh, we ready? All right, man. I didn't realize okay. But what I said before we went live, ignore it. Somebody said, yeah, erase. Man, it's a good day today. Can I ask you a question? Because that rain came down pretty good. It was coming down pretty good this morning. And some people probably had already determined that they were going to stay in because it was raining, nice and good. But it appears that you all got on a boat today. And you got on Noah's Ark, and it brought you to Bible study. So it's good to see you today. And I'm just excited to be here and to talk more about relationships. It's so broad. I'm reading this wonderful, I call it a classic book on church conflict, and it talks about 3 different types of conflict. And I always tie in those types of things with the lesson I believe that God placed in my heart to give you as we are coming together to continue our conversations regarding relationships. I think one of the items that I thought was interesting was I think it was interpersonal relationships or interpersonal conflict. Interpersonal conflict. I'm so sorry. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the precious Holy Ghost, we pray and we thank you, God. And the people of God said, Amen. Amen. Thank you. That one was quite interesting to me. It talked about how conflict arises based on how people feel about each other, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the issue at hand. And it really doesn't matter what type of issue is on the table, even if it's something that can be worked out. It typically isn't, because the 2 individuals just don't like each other. And I don't know if you've ever experienced that before, maybe not you personally, but if you've ever known someone who did not want to work something out because they just didn't like the person. And it was a situation that could be easily worked out, but because of how they felt about the particular individual. Here's another one. Another one is that I believe it kind of deals with the same concept. It has to do with race. And so we might be able to work it out, but because I don't like you because of the color of your skin or where you're from, we're just not going to work it out. And so it's that type of conflict that does not take the time to speak to and or deal with the issue because people just don't like each other. It's hard to resolve conflict on the usher board when the president of the usher board or a person serving on the usher board just does not like the person that's a part of the usher board ministry. They just don't like each other. And something can be worked out, but they just don't like each other. Or in the missionary department, you can have one of those department, I call them department directors. I know we use that terminology in Christian education, but you can have the YAMS coordinator and the parent body president not working together to resolve something because they just don't like each other. And it could be something as simple as, what color are we going to choose for the event? And it, at the end of the day, it really doesn't have anything to do with the color. It has to do with the fact that they just don't like each other. And so they just don't work it out. It could be persons serving on the trustee board. They just, what color carpet should we put in the fellowship hall? And so there's an intense debate that turns into an argument, and people end up, just going bananas and ballistic because it's really not about the carpet. It's about the fact that they just don't like each other. Can I ask you this question? Have you ever in your life at least experienced or known somebody that is just like that? Just like that. Or it could be somebody that you don't know that's just like that. But now that we've been in here having this conversation, you probably are saying to yourself now, I got this. I understand. I know that it's more than, okay, this is something that we may want to put down. It's more than the conflict at hand. It's more than the issue at hand, but it really deals with the fact that people just don't like each other. And that in itself is probably more prevalent I was going to say just relationships in general, but in the church, if you think about it. And you always wonder why. You say, man, we're all believers and Christians. How come the folk just don't get along with each other? They just don't like each other for whatever reason. It could be. And can I give you the reasons, some of the silly reasons? Look at somebody say silly. Can I give you some of the silly reasons why some people don't like people? Some people don't like people because, I'm telling you, because of the texture of their hair. Had you ever heard that before? Some folks' texture may be a little straighter and others may be a little bit more curlier. And so they don't like it. It's crazy. They just, how about complexion? I was watching a piece where Johnny Gill was being interviewed. You all know who Johnny Gill is? If you don't know, I'll go ahead and sing a tune. My, 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 my. Oh, see, I knew y'all wasn't saved. Yeah, Johnny Gill, there was a conversation, Johnny Gill and Stacey Lattisaw, both from the D.C. area, and they grew up together, and they used to sing together. But there was and had this little dating relationship. But Johnny Gill says that the issue they had was her parents did not really want her to be with him because he was chocolate. And she's what we used to call back in the day, and they still may call it today, a red bone. Light-skinned it. And so I'm telling you some of the reasons why people don't like each other. Because of, look at somebody say silly. I mean, just silly things, who would not like a person because they're not 6 feet tall? I mean, I'm just... Look at somebody say silly. That's just silly. But I mean, people have different reasons, and you'll look and you'll say, wow. Do you know that some people have issue with other persons because their relationship or their marriage has been on course for the past 25, 30, 40 years. And someone else's didn't really work out, or it's not working out, so they don't like the person because their relationship is working out well. Have you ever heard of anything like that before? Yeah, look at somebody say silly. That's silly. I just and so this creates, conflict and issues that really make absolutely no sense. And I would also say that there's some things that are deeply rooted that must be pulled out and dealt with. Really, it really does. There are some things that are learned behaviors. Some things we got from mama and them. Did you know that? There's some things that we get and we get it and we don't even realize we got it. I'll tell you this, there's some things, and most of us, we get, we get what we get from those who rear and raise us, but there are some things that that I never thought that I would do, that I said I would never do, that my father did, but I noticed that I do some of the stuff my father did, because that's my daddy, and so I said, man, I do that. I said, I don't repeat myself like he. I do that. I can't do that. Not like that. It's so funny, and I'm using this to kind of bring us to where we were trying to go. I chuckle because, I say things around the house, and you probably have never experienced this before because, as Reverend Justice, who pastored AME Church in Trenton, would say, you got it going on, and I might, I'm standing in the, in the kitchen or maybe in the family room, and I'm talking, Brother Ward, about, what I may want to do to the backyard. I got some ideas, and I'm talking, and then when I turn around to look at where my son and my wife are, they're looking at each other like, there he go. And that's the stuff we used to say about my father. Oh my goodness. My father be just talking. Yeah, I'm going to go down. He never said Home Depot. It was Home Depot. He said, I'm going down to Home Depot, get me some wood so I can finish that deck in the backyard. And I'm like, and my brothers, we look at each other like, no, they doing me the same way. So there's some things that we get and we got it, And good, bad, or we get it. And so those bad things that we get, we have to filter those things or get rid of those things, because they can really, is it me or is it warm in here? Is it warm? Maybe it's the lights. See how I opened up my hands and they just went. But yeah, so those are some of the challenges I think that we have. The other thing I would say too, and I've said this before, and of course I kind of love this introductory piece that I like to do when we're talking about relationships, or we're conversing in our Bible study sessions, that you never know what someone is going through or what someone has been through. And so we always have to be mindful of our interactions with people because we just don't know. The other thing you may want to write down too is never make assumptions. Never assume that people are behaving the way they're behaving because they're just nasty, because they're just mean, because that's not the case. People are not born that way. But people, how do you say it? Life just be lifing. Things happen that a lot of people had no idea that's going to happen in their lives. I mean, and it happens every single day. Happens every day. You know, I was even in my conversations in marriage counseling, as couples are sitting so smiling and they're just so happy together, I always say, this is now. But trust me, there will come a time when those smiles will turn into frowns. Now notice, it doesn't have anything to do with whether or not somebody loves somebody or cares about someone. It's just that life just be lifing. Things happen. And when things happen, you know, we've got to experience or we have to deal with those challenges. We just have to, you know, it's just the way that it is. And so I want to continue talking about it. I think one of the things that came out in the text message or information that went out, I think toxic relationships is one of the things that that I believe I want to get to today. And so as I begin to look at this, because now remember, always remember the text is going to be Genesis chapter 21, 22 through 31. And the story kind of deals with building or reestablishing trust, which kind of deals with, you know, having to work with or make relationships better, or developing or building relationships, and in some instances, relationships that have been broken apart or torn asunder. You know, just because something's happened doesn't mean that it's over, that's it. There's always room for change, there's always room for growth. It's not like throwing the garbage bag out and it going to the dump. But in order for it to be successful, two people have to be on the same page. Whether it's a marital relationship you know, you have with children, on the job, church relationships, we both have to be on the same page. And always remember this, and I would have you say this to your neighbor, but don't say it. You ain't always right. I thought I'd get that. I thought I'd get that on the table, because some of the most challenges, or most challenging, I think, what becomes most challenging in a relationship is that one side believes, especially, can I just say it like this? Especially people that are church people, because they always hide behind their relationship with God or religion. I'm right because this is what the Bible says. I'm right because this is what God says. Oftentimes, it's what you say. And the Lord didn't say anything. And I'd be very cautious and careful what I blame on God, because everybody's going to have to answer for that. What the Lord told me to say. And the Lord didn't have anything to do with it. It was us. It was all us. And I'm always skeptical. I'm sorry if I have somebody in here like this, I apologize. I'm always skeptical of those people who think they know Bible better than anybody else. They know God better. They know Bible better. They have a relationship with God better than you. I'm skeptical of people like that. That thought in itself is demonic. Look at somebody and say, he ain't talking about you. He's not talking about you. I'm just kind of talking about things that causes failure in relationships. It causes failure in relationships. It really, really does. It really does. You know, again, how we behave, how we talk to people, how we interact with people. And none of us are perfect. We've all said some things and done some things we probably should not have done. But here it is. God gives us an opportunity to clean it up. There's a song, I can't remember, I got to clean up what I, yeah, yeah. But it's hard to clean up something when you don't believe you messed up. That's it right there, because if not, what's going to happen is I'm going to keep adding on and it's going to become worse. And so here's a relationship between Abraham and Abimelech. They got to get this thing worked out, because Abraham, who is the one that's called by God, has told a fib or two or three along the way. And it destroyed this trustful relationship. And so this relationship has to be, we've got to build it. And so some of the things that we talked about, and I'm gonna get right to where I really want us to be. But there were some points that we lifted up, and just if you give them to me real quick, I'm not going to expound on it. Tell me what the first point was. Talk to me about that. You said self-awareness. What's that mean? Those of you that were writing down those wonderful notes. Yeah. Remember the principle one? Be reactive. No, you're right, proactive. Brother McPherson, right on it. Be proactive. And what did we say about being proactive? Because we're trying to build better relationships. So we're saying in order to have a better relationship with people in general, you fill in the blank. What I need you to do is I need you to fill in the blank, right? You're filling in the blank. Whatever relationship you're working with. It might be a marital relationship. It might be a relationship with your children. It might be a relationship with your neighbor. It might be a relationship with somebody on the job. It might be a relationship with somebody in the church. I need you to fill in the blank. So I'm going to be proactive in what? Avoiding future conflict. And so how am I going to do that? What? Yeah. Godly wisdom helps me to do what? Oh, man, that's what it helps me to see potential conflict. Okay, here it comes. So in order for me to be proactive, there has to be a connection, a relationship between me and God. Okay, let me say that again, because I think I said that lightly. There has to be a committed relationship between me and God, between you and God. Because it's hard to hear somebody when there's no relationship there. You tend not to listen to people if there is no relationship. So I have a relationship with God, a committed relationship with God. So how then is that relationship committed? How do I, what makes a committed relationship with God? What are some of the things I need to do? Be obedient. What else? I mean, we're trying, what was that? Open and honest. What else? Listen, I know God sees and God knows everything. So somebody might be asking the question, so why do I need to be open and honest with God when God already knows? Because conversation with God suggests to God that you are being sincere about what it is you want God to work on in your life. Just to sit back and say, God already know what I need. Instead of saying, Lord, I need you to help me with A, B, and C. Because yes, God knows, but God also needs us to be open, honest, and transparent with God. Because that opens a door to getting better. So I'm going to be proactive and I'm not going to be reactive. Talk to me a little bit about anybody ever experienced a reactive situation? You know, you knew, watch this, you knew that you could fix it, but you didn't want to say nothing. You knew that you had the ability to at least have some dialogue to help bring down the situation, but you didn't say anything. And because we didn't say anything, it made the situation worse. Has that ever happened to you before? That you didn't say anything? You didn't say anything to those kids about what they shouldn't be doing, and then they kept on doing it, and it got worse. Next thing you know, police were knocking on your door. Guess who I got here in the car? I mean, that's what they used to do. Now they just take them straight down, downtown. But they used to come to your house, knock on the door, and say, I brought them home. And you say, not again, because I didn't have that conversation. And I should have had that conversation. I should have had that conversation with that employer. I didn't, and the situation got worse at work because I didn't have the conversation. I didn't have the conversation with the president or chairperson of that particular ministry, and things got worse. So instead of having a conversation with God and then communicating my thoughts and my feelings. And even the Bible says, the Bible is clear that we ought to have some dialogue between each other to work things out. Come, let us reason together, saith the Lord. And the Bible also says that if you try to have dialogue with somebody to work it out and they ain't trying to hear what you got to say, go get somebody else and bring them to have conversation. But watch this. If that don't work, if nothing works, you've done your part. Shake the grease out of your hair. Shake the dust off your feet. And do what? Keep it moving. That just simply means I've already done my best with godly wisdom to make the situation better. But it didn't. So I'm clear. I've done my part. Now, in doing my part, I have to make sure that I wasn't nasty in doing my part. Because some people might say, well, you should have done it. Okay, I communicated with them and they wasn't trying to hear me. I guess they weren't. Because rolling my neck is not a part of the conversation. Rolling my neck, pointing my finger, screaming and hollering is not going to work. It only makes matters what? Worse. Oh, man. All right, so so the second principle was what? Be honest. Deal honestly with others. Be upfront, straight up, be transparent. If you expect relationships to get better, whichever category you're under, you've got to be open and you have to be honest. And peep this out. Throw all pride out the window. Because can I tell you this? There's a whole lot of people who are unhappy because they had too much pride. And they could be happy had they just set their pride down and had an open and honest conversation and moved forward. Don't you know there's a lot of marriages that have fallen apart because of pride? I ain't giving in. Not me. I already said what I need to say. No. Open, honest conversation. And please be honest without rolling your neck, waving a finger, or picking a shoe or a baseball bat up. Now, sometimes you might want to do that, but don't do it. Look at somebody say, because it ain't worth it. It ain't worth it. It's really not. Because the flip side of that is, if you're open and honest and you've done all you can, then sometimes separation is the best thing in relationships. Remember, I'm speaking generally, because you can't be friends with everybody. There's some people, even in your circle now, that you've been contemplating whether or not they need to stay in your circle. Because you can't trust them. You can't. Look, I said this before. There's some people you can trust and have a conversation with, but know this. Everybody got a friend. Even your friend got a friend. Y'all missed what I just said. Sometimes we think we share things, and you should be able to share things with people, but there's some people that you share things with and you don't know that they've gone back and shared that with somebody else. Let me tell you how they work it. This is how it works. Girl, man, Bruh, man, don't tell nobody, but guess what? And as soon as we say don't tell nobody, guess what? It's already going. They gonna tell it. So we can't tell everything, but we got to be open and honest with those who we're communicating with in relationship. Be open and honest. Be open and honest. I always chuckle because I tell people a destroyer of marriage before people get married is the lack of transparency before you walk down the aisle. There's some things you better say before you walk down the aisle. You can't wait and say it later. Because again, if you say it later, then what happens is, and that person finds out, and they say you weren't honest and transparent, now they're going to start thinking about everything else you've done and you said. And they're not going to trust you. There's some things, I get it. Somebody said there's some things I'm taking to the grave. I got it. But here it is. If there's something that has happened, that there's a possibility that that baby might come out somewhere down the road. Because you know how some people say, well, it'll come out, we'll be married 10 years. Guess what? I've seen it happen. Folks separate and get away from each other for good because of something that wasn't said before. So we got to be even parent and children relationships. I'm talking about adult children. I'm not talking about little ones. Even grandchildren. I'm not talking about little ones. I'm talking about older ones. Because we're not honest. And can I say this? Listen, if you want children and young people to respect us, we've got to be honest with them. We can't hide from them even some of the dirt that we've done. Ooh, y'all got real quiet on that. Because they need to know, right, that they can go through some stuff and make it on the other end just like you did. Open and honest. Open and honest. That's why, I told you the other day, and I'm going to move on. The other week we were talking about, I don't know if I was talking to you about my daughter, and I had to have the open and honest conversation with her. And she plugged them ears up, didn't want to hear it. I said, yeah, you're going to hear it. Have a seat. Daddy got a conversation. We have to talk. Got to talk about sex. Oh, Daddy. Oh, no, Daddy. Don't. Both of them. Son and daughter. We got to talk. We got to have this conversation. And you need to know everything that there is about what I'm getting ready to talk to you about. Oh, man, I wish I had time to really get into that. You want me to get into it? Want me to tell you what I told them? Want me to tell you what I really said? Honest, open and honest. Open and honest. Because can I say this? My parents never had that conversation with us. They never had it. I never remember my father sitting there and saying, let me talk to you. Son, let me talk to you about it. Because the idea was, you just ain't going to do it. That was the idea. So there was never any conversation. They had to talk about that. I'm saying none of us. They got 3 boys. And we were all saints. Okay, y'all pause and then laugh. Why'd you pause first? But no, again, that conversation, you have to have those conversations. You have to have, we said be honest. Okay, what was number 3? Did we get to number 3? Number 3 was a principle 3. Oh, maybe I didn't give you all that. Be open about problems. Did we talk about that? Okay, let me give it to you then. Be open about problems. Okay, let me talk to you about it real quick. That's principle 3. Be open about problems. Because I gave you, what I did is I was giving you what I call the major points. The Roman numeral 1, 2, and 3. The 1, 2 you just gave back to me. I'm giving you the number 3. And the Roman numeral number 3 is be open about problems. That's the Roman numeral number 3. Now, last week I gave you some subpoints that were underneath the 1 and 2. And that's where those other points came from. So, number 3, principle 3. Maybe I'll do it that way. We got principle 1, you got principle 2, and now you got principle 3. Principle 3 is be open about problems. Be open about problems. There were a few things of more importance. I thought I gave it to you. Maybe I didn't. Than water in what is called the Middle East. So many serious disputes arose over the rights to water both then and even today. Abraham, because I'm in the text, could have just kept quiet and kept the peace. But the reality is that such an approach would have only worsened future conflict. That's the key right there. That's why you got to be open about problems. If there's a problem, we got to talk about it, because if not, it's going to make things worse in the future. Here's another thing I think that ties into that as well. If we don't have the honest and open conversation about problems, which is number 3, here it comes. If I don't say anything about it and I hold on to it, then when something else pops off that we have a conversation about, then I'm going to bring up what happened in the past. That's why you got to deal with what you got in front of you so it doesn't become a past problem. I think we may have talked about that a little bit. I got to deal with what's on the table right now instead of moving on and then something pops off and then we start going in about that and then, oh, by the way, remember when you did X, Y, and Z? Now we got a problem. Because this is what's going to happen next. The other person's going to say, oh, let me take you back. Remember when you did da, 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 da. And now, right, tit for tat. Now, here's the problem. This is what typically happens. The initial piece or the piece that they were dealing with on the table is never resolved because they're too busy going back in time. And I'm telling you, some people go way back in time to some stuff that was never resolved. That's why not only do we have to be open and honest, but we've got to deal with it, because if not, it worsens future conflict. It makes it worse. If I don't deal with it, I need to deal with it. And there's some people, watch this, there's some people that don't like conflict. So they rather keep quiet than to say anything. But can I help you? You can't keep quiet. You got to say something. And there's a way to say it. So it worsens future conflict. It is good rather not to overlook offenses, as the Bible may suggest in Proverbs 19:11. Sometimes problems and conflicts are made much worse by not being open about the problems with the person who has offended us, or we may talk to everyone else but not to the person. That ever happened before? Where everybody, we just kind of talk to other people about what somebody else did, but we never talk to that person. Has that ever happened? Anybody? Don't raise your hand. Please don't raise your hand. Don't tell me. Don't tell me. And please don't tell the person next to you, because that might be the one, right? Here it is. Here it is. Sometimes things happen to us, and instead of us talking to that individual, we talk to Ray Ray, Nene, Quita, and Pookie. And I'm going to tell you something. When you tell other people, they become the mail carriers of that situation. And not only are they the mail carriers, but the information that they carry turns out to be something altogether different when it hits other people. Can I go a step further? Not only that, but that information, I promise you, is going to get back to the person that you got the issue with in the first place. And when it gets back to the person, it's going to be juicy. It's not going to be the simple conversation that we could have had, had we just dealt with it up front, but because we shared it with somebody else, and I think we talked about this before, I guarantee that if I started with Mother Williams whispered something in her ear. And she whispered, and it started going all the way around this room. By the time it got over here to Reverend Dawson, I promise you it'd be something different. And it's not that folk can't hear. It's just that sometimes we pass on our interpretation of what we heard. Oh man, that was good right there. Somebody should write that down. That's good. Everybody has an interpretation of what they see and what they hear. That's why nobody can carry the news but you. Because it's you, that you feel the way you feel. You've got to carry that information. Please don't let nobody else carry the bag. Because I'm telling you, it's going to change. Maybe we should do it. And see what it is. Because I know by the time it gets to Sister Nora, this is going to be all messed up. Yeah, but no, for real. I mean, you've all been in those the projects where you've done that before, and yeah. Again, it has to deal with other folks' interpretation of what they hear. So always make sure that you are the one carrying the information. And if you are going to have conversation with somebody, please make sure that it's somebody you can trust, that nobody will share information. As a pastor, one of the things I always share with people, that when you sit in the office and we have conversation or dialogue about a situation, it ain't going out the office at all. I don't share nothing. I don't even go home and talk to my wife about nothing. You know why? Can I make it real plain? It ain't none of her business. It's not. It's between me and the person that had the conversation. That's always been my practice. My practice has always been, we sit at the table, we have a conversation. I'm not going to say anything to anybody else. I don't. I just don't do that. And so unless you got somebody you can really trust that's not going to take your information, I'd be extremely careful how I carry that information. All right? Often, in our efforts to keep the peace, we make things worse. Here it is, by not speaking up. And this is true at work, where we may not be up front about issues that are bothering us, or in relationships, at home, or in the community, or in church. This may be the case, again, with a neighbor when we are not open about a serious, divisive issue. Or it may be in the church, here we go, when we are not sharing our real concerns. Now, here's the important piece right here. And in an appropriate manner. It has to be appropriate. And I get it. Sometimes things, they jump off. But if they jump off, bring it back down. Can I tell you how to bring it back down? Let me tell you the easiest way to bring something down when it jumps off. Here it is. Let us pray. Boom. Let us pray. You know what? Let's stop. We need to pray. Some people, and this is good too, I may have mentioned this before. Here's another thing that's good to do. Stop, cooling off period. Let's come back and talk in a little bit. Because sometimes things can be so heated that it just turns into something. I mean, it could be something as simple as we talked about taking the garbage out. Do you know, and I shared this before, well, I'll say it like this. There are some people, although there were other issues probably involved, some underlying issues, but that there are some people that decided to call it quits because the other person didn't take trash out. They didn't sweep the garage out. They didn't wash the car. So let's not, and I think that goes back to remember things piling up, because there's always going to be a breaking point. Can I just say this? We all got a breaking point. Okay, let me talk to the saved and holy people for a second. Everybody got a breaking point. Everybody. We ain't also saved that, well, when it get rough, I call on Jesus. I get it. I get you. But everybody got a breaking point. Everybody, and here it is. And I've said this before. I may have said it last week. Know exactly what your breaking point is. Know what makes you tick. Remember I said, and what ticks you off. Ooh, I just said something. Because now when you know what raises your blood pressure or what gets you to the boiling point, you know when to get out the way. You know how to say, you know what? Let's talk about this later. Don't ever, and here's another thing. Man, this is just keep popping off. I know I was going to talk about toxic relationships. I'm going to get there. But the Spirit of the Lord is just moving. Here's another thing. Don't ever call people outside of their name. If her name is Betty, call her Betty. I mean, y'all understand any Bettys in here? Did I say? Yeah, call people by their name. Don't call them outside their name. Don't call them the N-word or no other word. And here's another good practice. I'm going to say this. Can I get a little bit closer? Here's another good practice. Even when you're communicating with other people about what somebody else did, don't say what that N did. Y'all missed what I just said. I got some babies in here. I'm trying to give you the clean version. I mean, because people do that. You know what that B did. I mean, you understand what I'm saying? People, don't get into that practice. People got names. Respect that. Just like you want people to respect you and who you are. It becomes helpful. Because once we start practicing that language then becomes a part of our normal conversations, becomes who we are. It's like being addicted to something. If you don't get help, you're only going to fall deeper in the rabbit hole. Somebody missed what I just said. Unless we get help, it gets worse. So we have to, and all of this, because here it is, relationships at the end of the day are really all about how we communicate with each other. It's about communication. That's really what we're talking about, although we're talking about, giving these points. It's about how I communicate with people. So we said, and you wrote it down, I know you did, you said, know your what? The point where you will know the point where you might pull the blade out of your purse. No, I'm serious. You got to know it. Know the point where you might pull the gat out of your pocket. Okay, that's a gun. I'm sorry. Everybody's looking at me and say, what's a gat? Okay, maybe I went a little bit too far. But I mean, know that, because some people get to that point, that breaking point, that point where I say it's over. Don't get to that point. Before you get there, look at somebody, say, back away, back away, back away, back away, back away. I saw something on TikTok. Okay, so every now and again I look at TikTok. And these two gentlemen, they were arguing with each other. One was outside the car, other one inside the car. They were arguing with each other. A couple choice words, arguing with each other. The other one said, hold on. Went and walked back to where his car was. I think they were in Florida. A whole bunch of people out hanging out. And then the next clip showed him coming back, walking around the front of the car to go over to have a conversation with the guy, and the guy hit the gas. Whoof. Next thing you know, he was on the hood, rolling off the side, tennis shoe over here in the corner, and the car was gone down the street. It ain't worth it. I mean, it didn't kill the guy, but the guy reached what's called his breaking point. And guess what could have happened? He could have killed that man. And had he done that, guess what would have happened to him? He would have been where? He would have been, y'all know about jail? Yeah, y'all said that too here. Jail. Wait a minute. Let me look. Okay, yeah, a few of y'all, I see it. I did. No, I'm just yeah, but it could, that's the breaking point I'm talking about. Said, what would make a person think that somebody gets in front of your vehicle that you're going to push the gas and run that person over. Or even get to an argument to the place, here's the other breaking point, where the other person says, hold on, I'll be back. Because in my brain, you're going to get something. So now that you're going to get something, maybe I better pull that car and drive and hit the gas. See, I see y'all. I knew y'all were going, It's this section right over here. These are the mothers of the church. Now, wait a minute. They were like, I'm telling you, it was like, you right, Pat. I'd have pushed that gas too. I'd have put it in drive and then put it in reverse. No, but there were 2 breaking points. 2. And we want to make sure in relationships that we don't get to that place. Because I believe that a lot of relationships are destroyed because of that. And trust me, people come back later and say, I regret it. I don't know how many people have said that. I don't know how many times I've sat in conversation with people and they say, I regret it. Or sometimes I'll sit with people and have a wonderful conversation about what needs to be done, and they articulate it so well in the room with me, and I said, take the same way you articulated it here and take it across the street. That's perfect. Don't trick me. Don't trick me and be all nice in here. You got to be nice. If you're going to be nice in here, you got to be nice out there. And this is the place, I'm telling you. That's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about this, because this is the place. If we can't have this conversation in the church, we can't have this nowhere else. It starts with us. Because believe it or not, I'm telling you, statistics show that people that struggle in relationships and overcoming those challenges are more are people like us and not the world. Did you hear what I said? Us, not them, us. So that means we've got to look at somebody and say, we got to do better. 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 All right. This is good. This is getting good to me. Okay. Can I keep on going? All right. Let me, let me see. Now, don't give them that. Okay. Keeping quiet about our concerns do nothing to solve the problem. You know what it does? It only magnifies the problem. Because, here we go, again, eventually things will come to a head and they will explode like a volcano. The conflict could have been handled or can be handled much better if people are more open in the earlier stages. People have to be open. It is easy for people to deceive themselves into thinking that if they ignore a problem long enough, it's going to go away. Can I help you? It's not. Oh man, this is just pulling me out from behind this chair. It's hard for me to stay here. I know they got the camera on me, but I'm moving a little bit. Okay, here it comes. Even if you decide that you're leaving this person and it's it, 5-10 years down the road, even if you determine that friendship is gone, even if you determine I'm going to quit that job and you don't deal with the issue, it's going to come back. Here's an example. And I use this example, and the reason why I use it so much is because I've heard it so much. A person gets out of a relationship, whether it's a dating relationship or a marriage, and they've been together for quite some time, and they move on, but the person is still broken or still wounded. Don't you know they carry that into the next relationship, into the next friendship? That their ability to trust a person goes right out of the window because they didn't deal with it. So we can't let things go. We've got to deal with it. That's what's going to help things get better. in our relationships. All right. Unfortunately, problems rarely disappear. The longer we ignore them, again, the worse they become. Ignore a chest cold, and it can become bronchitis. Man, that's some real talk. Ignore a knock in your engine, and eventually, you know the deal. Ignore a conflict with your child, and it can result in total rebellion. Kids are not born bad. They're really not. They're beautiful little babies that they grow up. But there's some things that we've got to deal with in our interaction with them and communication with them, whether they're our children or our grandchildren, so that things don't get worse down the road. And here it is. Sometimes things have gotten to that place because we have not had that conversation with them. Or if we've had the conversation, we've had this kind of conversation. What you shouldn't do. Why would you do that? Why did you do that? Instead of having a nice conversation with them. I know sometimes you want to wring their neck. I get it. Matter of fact, I'm looking at a couple of y'all. Y'all already wrung their necks a long time ago. I mean, again, it happens. Trust me. Look, what we're talking about, none of us are perfect. We're all working on this, right? And so, so there are some situations where we've said, you know what, man, especially when it's young people, because one of the things that I've discovered is that sometimes people that are more seasoned, feel like, and they're right, that young people should respect their elders. But not all young people do that. And so our response to that sometimes is to teach them how to do that, because in a lot of instances, they have never learned how to respect their elders. I remember there was a time, even when I was a kid in the church, at that Logan Temple AME Zion Church, 302 South 32nd Street, San Diego, California, 92113. I remember we'd be hanging out in front of the church afterwards, service, and we were kids. Everybody, kids always hanging out, running around the grass and having a good time. And here they come, here they come, here they come, here they come, here he 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 come. Walking down the sidewalk, trying to stay on the sidewalk. And when he got close to the church, I'm serious. Straighten up. Anybody ever seen that before? I mean, just straighten it right up. Come back to church. Because somewhere along the line, although he was in the predicament that he was in, he understood, or somebody taught him to respect the church. But that's not in every situation. And so if people are not, oh my goodness, man, this stuff gets good. It really does. Okay, this is what I'm going to do, because I've got to move. Can somebody give me one thing that you've learned from this session today? Just one thing, but just tell me something you learned from our conversation today. If say that, who said that? Who said? Yeah. If you don't deal with the issue, it's going to get worse. I heard something else. Somebody else say something else. Got to be open and honest. Somebody said, know your what? Know your breaking point. Because you can feel, there are certain things that you can feel in your physical body as it relates to illness before it happens.